Someone else's wedding.
Presented by Stillafrog.
There appears to be a wedding going on next door. I catch a glimpse of a white tent partially obscured by tree branches. I hear a symphony of sounds, people laughing, musical instruments tuning, pots clanking, and I am in bed, heavy curtains drawn, as dark as I can make it at 2 p.m. I remember that. I remember being her. All eyes on me, everyone tiptoeing around my nervous and frazzled bride feelings. Then all the dancing, the food, the alcohol, of course, and the endless parade of well-wishers. Mostly, I remember him, at the end of a seemingly mile-long aisle. I remember just wanting to run to him, forget the painfully slow march clutching my father's arm, and just leap into his embrace, become his partner for life. Mr. and Mrs. Let no man or woman tear asunder. Stupid kids, I think. My migraine screams towards full throttle despite the, as seen on TV, microwave-heated mask draped across my face. FYI, doesn't work. The wedding is the flowers, unicorns, and rainbow part. The wedding is the dream from which you awaken too soon, and so you try and force yourself to fall back asleep. The wedding is palm trees, streaming sunlight, and blue skies. It's the promise of marital bliss. The rumpled sheets, low music, lower lights, and slow-turning ceiling fans. The marriage itself, on the other hand, is something else entirely. It's an LA freeway at 5 o'clock where you wait at a standstill for hours amidst exhaust fumes and blaring horns while 3 state troopers and a tow truck attempt to clear out a car wreck. I hear the opening notes of that song. Sounds like they got a violin quartet to play. How sweet. Ours had been an organist. At the church, he was traditional that way. The bride's probably getting ready to walk down the aisle right now, taking a deep breath in, straightening her dad's bow tie, or maybe it's an ascot. Yeah, it's an ascot. Her father's distinguished. He needs it all to be genteel and formal. He hired a violin quartet, after all. The first step onto the long, rose-petal-strewn white runner. The first step into an unknown forever. How I want to throw open the window and scream, "Stop! Go back! It's not going to turn out like you think it will." I want to lecture her on how after the honeymoon, where it was all champagne and strawberries served bedside, while mornings drifted into afternoons as they lingered over one another, still intoxicated with the passion of the night before, all that eventually fades, and what's left will be a hastily poured cup of coffee, sloshed over the rim of his favorite Boston Red Sox mug. And can't he even wipe up the counter before he races out the door, barely pausing as he gives you an obligatory peck on your cheek? The bride, I imagine, beams at the crowd, a collection of family, friends, gathered to witness firsthand this rice and confetti-sanctified expression of love. He waits at the gazebo/altar. It is picturesquely awash in flowers and English ivy. She will belong to him in just a few minutes. They will belong to each other. Here comes the bride now fills the air with its implicit assurance of a life together that all too often turns out to be a mirage. Forever is founded upon the foolish fantasy that you know who the other person will become. People change, they grow, they age, and about half the time those changes drive couples apart. 50% of all marriages end in divorce. It's a coin toss. Do you really want to bet your happiness on those odds? A year goes by, maybe 2, if you're lucky 3, before your forever fantasy starts to have habits that drive you crazy and quirks he refuses to fix. Those things that make you say, who the hell is this person I'm married to anyway? How can I be eternally connected to someone who's turned into this? The way he rolls his shirt sleeves up, not really rolling, but just pushing them back so that they keep flopping down. How many times I wanted to grab those cuffs and just fix them the right way, for God's sake. The way he clears his throat at 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning, or the way that he stomps off his boots in the entry between the garage and mudroom, leaving clumps of dried dirt all over the place. They've mic'd up the priest. Maybe it's a minister. I can hear a deep voice, but the words are too muffled to make out. I'll bet he's reading that one passage about love being patient and kind and keeping no record of wrongs. But you do. I'd explain to her. You keep your own Rolodex of every transgression. The Halloween party, for instance. After you've searched Pinterest for the perfect couple costumes, you go as Popeye in olive oil this year. You shorten your olive oil skirt because you're wondering why he hasn't been looking at you the same way lately, why he no longer touches you. Show a little thigh, you think, and that'll get his attention again. But then at the party, he's distant. Literally, he's on the opposite side of the room. You're supposed to stand together so people will get the full meaning of your costume choice. Then, after a few mugs of spiked apple cider, you spot him holding I Dream of Jeannie's hair back as she bobs for apples. Nope, scratch that. She's too young to be Barbara Eden. That bitch is some damn Disney princess. You drive home not arguing because you don't want it to be true. And you're also kind of drunk. The priest has stopped talking. They must be reciting their vows. Heartfelt words they wrote themselves, naturally. Gazing into each other's eyes, she probably wipes away a tear or two. Her voice is quivery. When taking that first step toward happy ever after, you're going to be emotional. Trust me, I'd assure her. These are not the emotions that will come to define your relationship. No, rather, when he comes home later and later, and eventually stops trying to hide the fact that he's lost interest in sex, lost interest in you, then the feelings really hit the fan. Who is she? You'll scream. Doesn't matter. He'll calmly reply. Are you in love or just fucking her? You'll desperately cry out. What difference does it make? He'll say, ignoring the question. It's been over between us for a long time now. That scene will be inundated by the heartbreak of loss and waves of rage. The final act, the one where his suitcase stands packed and waiting by the front door as he whispers a solemn goodbye, that one will be nothing but unconsolable sadness and wretched remorse. The violins begin again, a cheerful, plucky rendition of Pachelbel's canon in D. Hand in hand, maybe arm in arm, the now legally committed couple waves at the guests and they squeeze each other playfully as the doves fly away. Pure poetry. They'll go off now, probably to some waterfall or otherwise scenic backdrop, and take photos that will cover every page of a very elaborately decorated and ultra-expensive wedding album. And one day she will look back at those pictures. She'll be sitting on her couch, a big, expansive sectional, whose only purpose is now to accommodate one. She will sip from her third or fourth glass of Merlot, and she will remember what it was like to be more than just a woman alone. She'll trace the outline of her face in a photograph, the face of a woman who at that time was half of a couple. A single tear will fall to mar the glossy surface of the page, and that's fine, because it's probably time that she discards those fading images anyway. So what's one tear-stained page going to matter? She'll keep eyeing her phone. That last text message from her friend. The perfect guy, divorced too, handsome, stock trader, and he can cook. Call him. She'll put the pictures away then, but she won't call. She's not ready. Not yet. Maybe she will be, one day. She hopes. Maybe one day.